Hi, this is Colleen Bevenour, and today I want to introduce you to a unique concept and a unique way of thinking called unbounded thinking. And I encourage you to embrace the possibility thinking that is available to you and to challenge yourself to open up to unbound your thinking, because I think you'll find that it opens new possibilities for you. Unbounded thinkers perceive everything in the world and in their business environment and in their work as evolving. And if you perceive it as evolving versus changing, which feels threatening and also suggests that there's a beginning and an end point, you won't be fazed by change because you'll know and accept that everything is going to evolve. Unbounded thinkers form a vision. And that vision is of an optimistic future scenario that's grounded in reality, but developed with an unencumbered mind and thinking process. Unbounded thinkers ask a lot of what-if questions to push beyond what is known today, and they push themselves into areas of uncertainty and new possibilities. I'll give you my favorite example of unbounded thinking. Everybody's familiar with Uber, the company that provides rides, right? And years ago, two young guys faced a challenge that nearly all of us have faced, and that's they were waiting for a cab. And the line was quite long, and it was taking them a while. Now, I know myself, I would sit in that situation and just wait and be frustrated and possibly complain to whoever I was with. I'd be anxious, possibly texting whoever I was about to meet with saying I might run late. So I would just deal with the situation. Most of us would. The two gentlemen that started Uber responded differently in a very normal situation, and they asked, what if? Their what if question was, what if we could push a button and get a ride? And that launched a billion-dollar company. That kind of thinking is not natural for most of us, but we can challenge ourselves to get there. Unbounded thinkers evaluate different sides of every circumstance, every situation, every opportunity or problem to understand the nuances that may provide critical leverage points to significantly alter the situation or even the landscape. Our mental models or thinking frames are what typically limit our thinking, things like cognitive biases in our thinking frames. The way we define a situation strongly influences the choices we perceive. So if I perceive something as a problem, my choices are problem-solving choices, or problem elimination choices, or problem prevention choices. But if I see something as an opportunity, my choices are always about how to leverage that opportunity. And that's actually a problem because I'm limiting my thinking to that immediate perception. And those frames and that limited immediate perception really drive us towards the solutions that we develop. And that's why it's so important to look at the opposite of what we perceive and ask, what if? You know, unbounded thinkers, they're just different in the way they look at things, and we can all get there. And the way we get there is by asking different questions and perceiving things differently. So one of the ways to do that is to use possibility thinking. Possibility thinking is exactly what the Uber founders did. They said, what's possible in this situation? Unbounded thinkers seem to be driven too by a very personal why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why do we exist? And that why pulls them forward, and it compels them to make a difference in their work, in their situation, in patients' lives, in everything. They're very adaptable. One way to look at it is they look at setbacks in their work or in their personal life as commas, like commas in a grammatical sentence, not periods at the end of the sentence. So it's not the end, it's just a pause. Unbounded thinkers also withhold judgment and apply multiple frames. And they ask themselves some tough questions. They say things like, well, what am I not seeing in this situation? What's the opposite of what I think about this situation? And what is this situation becoming? And when you continually do this over time, you start to see evolution versus start and stop change points. The other thing that unbounded thinkers do is they cast a vision of the future that is the best possible, most optimistic vision, but they ground that in reality. So they drive towards that best possible future scenario, and they make decisions that will get them there, and then they also prevent the worst possible scenario. So they've got very clear views of what's possible, what's the best possible future scenario for this environment, this city, this town, this region, this country. And then they also understand what the worst possible scenario is, and they work towards preventing the worst and creating the best. Now, as leaders of teams, there are moments in time in your work where it's really a great time to encourage yourself and your team to use unbounded thinking. Here's 4 different times to do that. When you encounter a new situation, whether it's a new customer situation, a new a decision point within the organization, a decision point with your suppliers, whatever that new situation is, watch how you immediately respond to it, how you frame it as a problem or opportunity. And ask your team or ask yourself if they've explored all possible approaches to it by asking them to reframe it as the opposite. So reframing as the opposite and looking at a new customer or a new work situation differently. The next time that you want to employ unbounded thinking is when a market dynamic emerges that could become a major disruptor, whether it's a positive disruptor or a negative disruptor. You want to pause, you want to take a moment to think about that and unbound your thinking and look at the possibilities that could exist. Another time that it's really important to employ unbounded thinking is during strategy development, because that's the time when you are going to define how you're going to create, deliver, and capture value from your marketplace. And if you're working with limited thinking, you may miss completely wonderful opportunities for your team to deliver value to the marketplace. The other time, the 4th time to employ unbounded thinking is when you're collaborating and joint problem solving with either your team, your boss, the folks that are your peers on the team, or with external stakeholders within your ecosystem to help them push their thinking beyond their natural conclusions. So there's several questions that you can be asking yourself as you go through this to start unbounding your thinking. And we've got a tool on the Business Accelerator website called Unbounded Thinker, and that tool is going to take you through 4 different things. It's going to take you through what I just reviewed, which are some of those supporting skill sets to unbound your thinking and the times that you want to employ unbounded thinking. And then there's a list of coaching questions that you can be asking your team members or your peers in order to unbound their thinking. And then there's some tips for you, some coaching tips that you can always apply to yourself. You can work with your peers when you're joint problem solving, or you can apply them to the work you're doing with your own team to help you develop the capability and the practice of possibility thinking as you approach these very unique and challenging market situations and organizational situations.